Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Aquaman, we do pick up with Crown of Atlantis. And this comes literally moments after the ending of H2O story arc, where Aquaman and Mera had to help out the Aquamarines deal with the dead water situation. And so when it comes to our two heroes, when they do arrive back at Atlantis, they realize that, well, the entire kingdom is quiet and everyone seems to be missing. And it's Aquaman at first believing that him and Mera may be alone, but then he realized that technically he's not alone. He's kind of wondering what in the world is going on here. What is the people of Atlantis trying to do to him? But out of nowhere, they are attacked by Wrath and his group of people, better known as the Deluge. Now, when it comes to the Deluge, they are a group of terrorists who do not believe in Aquaman as their king. And the reason why, because Aquaman has been trying to build a relationship when it comes to Atlantis and other countries of the surface world. When it comes to Wrath and his people, that is a bad idea. And another reason why they don't believe in Aquaman as their king is because he is hardly around. A lot of times Aquaman would be with the Justice League or be on the surface world trying to be a hero. And so because of that, when it comes to Wrath and his group, they don't believe in Aquaman as their king. Now, the last time we saw Wrath, well, he was locked away, but someone let him loose. And the question is right now, why? Either way, you do have him and his group try to fight against Aquaman and also Mera. Now, you do have Aquaman state that there's no way that you will be able to stop me. On top of that, you cannot remove me as king. And the reason why, because only the council can decide to remove me as king. And so unless the council said so, I'm sorry, friend, I'm going to stay as king. Except you have Wrath say, oh, I knew you would say that. It was not my decision to say it's time to step down. This time it was their decision. And out of nowhere, you have the council arrive. But then we have to jump over to the prisons of Atlantis, and we pick up with a character known as Vulko. Now, Vulko was very important in the New 52, and the reason why, because he truly believed that Aquaman should be king of Atlantis, and around that time he wasn't. It was Orm, Aquaman's half brother. And so when it came to Vulko, he worked behind the scenes to, well, technically start a war. And when that war happened, it was a way to remove Orm but have Aquaman take Orm's place. Now, Aquaman did become king of Atlantis, but he told Vulko, you went too far. You started a war between Atlantis and America. Innocent lives were lost only because you truly believe I should be king. And so Aquaman had his close friend locked up for that one particular reason. Except now, every single prison cell has been left open. And we know why, because somebody had released Wrath. But now all the cells are open. And so Vulko is wondering, why is my cell door left open? Now, he does decide to go ahead and leave, except as he does leave, he kind of tells us, the readers, that he kind of does regret making Aquaman king of Atlantis. And so this could mean that he might join sides with Wrath. But then we jump over to the council meeting, and when we do, this is the moment where you have Aquaman learn that the people of Atlantis do not want him as their king anymore, and they have a lot of great reasons why. And let's start off with the first one, the idea that when it comes to Aquaman, he wanted to build a relation between America and Atlantis, Atlantis with the surface world. But the people of Atlantis, they never wanted that. They wanted to be left alone. But they followed their king. That's the right thing to do. But then a war happened between America and Atlantis. Now, that war is not Aquaman's fault. That war only happened because of Nemo, a hidden group that was trying to get rid of Atlantis to then take over the ocean, to then take over the world. Now, even though Aquaman was able to stop the war and stop Nemo, well, Nemo was being led by Black Manta, who is literally the #1 bad guy for Aquaman. And so when it comes to the council, they're like, you brought a war to our front door. Now, yes, you are somewhat innocent, but at the same time, it was your enemies who were coming after you, who were then coming after us. Innocent people who were part of your war between Black Manta, and that is not okay. And their other reason is that he's never there. He's always out in the surface world trying to be a hero, fighting alongside the Justice League. And matter of fact, our previous story arc just showed that. With him trying to deal with the whole dead water situation, he was away from Atlantis, where he should be in Atlantis and trying to help rebuild the kingdom after the big war between America and Atlantis. And so you have the council say, those are reasons why we believe that you should no longer be king of Atlantis. Like, you need to step down. Now, here's the thing. We're going to have a meeting without you and Wrath, and give us time to decide what we want to do. Who should be our king of Atlantis? And we'll call you both back in here once we have made a decision. And so we jump into the second chapter. Now, when we do, it's really more of Aquaman and Mera having a conversation with one another. Now, this conversation is really important because it's Mera saying, hey, what are we going to do if they decide they no longer want you to be their king? They no longer want you around. And when it comes to Mera, she's down with the idea of just going ahead and leaving Atlantis now. Going ahead and going back to Embassy Bay to live in the lighthouse, to get married, have some kids, and have a quiet life. Like, that's her end goal right now. And so she says, listen, they don't want you, they don't want me. And she's right, they don't want her because her people were exiled many years ago. But on top of that, there was a vision that was told by the Oracle that if Mera marries Aquaman and becomes the queen of Atlantis, there's a possibility she may bring the end to the entire world. And so she has fear and hatred towards this place. Yes, it makes sense she wants to leave. But for Aquaman, it's not that easy because this was his family's kingdom. It has been in his family line for a very long time. And so the idea to just give up is not that easy for him. He feels responsible for this place. He wants to fight for this place. He believes that he can lead Atlantis into a better future. And so Mera leaves and she says, listen, as soon as they tell you they no longer want you to be their king, you better leave. Don't fight for it. Leave. Because these people, they don't want you anymore. And honestly, you don't owe them nothing. We then jump over to Wrath, and when we do, it's really more Wrath expressing how upset he is when it comes to Aquaman, because he found out Aquaman knew about the idea the Silent School had created different powerful weapons and armor suits that could really help Atlantis fight against their enemies, possibly take over different nations on the surface world. And so for Wrath, this is just another example that Aquaman was never fit to be king of Atlantis, because with these great ideas, he could reassure that Atlantis was protected, but then also go out there and take down other enemies from other countries. And so it's him saying what a pathetic king he was. Now, that is the moment where he is called into the council meeting room, because the council had decided what they want to do with Aquaman and Wraith. Now, we already know where this meeting is about to go, because as soon as Aquaman arrives, they tell him, you are no longer king of Atlantis. Wrath will now be the new king of Atlantis. We feel like the ways you're trying to take Atlantis could lead us to a very dark path. It could lead us to the end of Atlantis. And so it's up to us, the council, to realize that your ways are the wrong ways. And it's time for someone new and fresh to hopefully lead us in a better way. And so Raph becomes the king of Atlantis. Now Aquaman has to flee because technically he's no longer king, and he did say that he will fight for his crown. And because of that, that means you are technically a threat to the new king. And so he has to leave, but try to think of new game plans when he comes back to Atlantis to regain control of his kingdom. But they want to arrest him, and so he's trying his best to get away. But right after Raph becomes the new king of Atlantis, he tells people, release the crown of thorns, and that is going to be very important. But getting back over to Mera, she's waiting for her man to come to the lighthouse, and she knows that he is very stubborn. She knows that he will come here once they do tell him that he can no longer be king. It's just the wait is such a hard thing for her to go through. Except out of nowhere, she sees a beam of light shoot out of the water into the sky, and she's wondering what in the blank is going on right now. And so she leaves to go back into the ocean. Now we also kind of find out in this section that Tula, who worked very close to Aquaman and Mera, had also decided to leave Atlantis as well. Now, here's the thing about the Crown of Thorns. The Crown of Thorns is technically a new idea that's going to go around Atlantis, making sure that nobody is able to leave, but nobody is able to get in. And so, as you had these huge thorns begin to surround Atlantis, Aquaman's chances of escaping is becoming very slim. Now he does see Mera, who's trying to get to him to help him get out of there before he's trapped in Atlantis. But here comes the big problem. Merc. Merc was a character who worked alongside Aquaman for a very long time and one of the commanders of the different army forces in Atlantis. And so out of nowhere, you have Merc appear and stab Aquaman right through the chest. And when that happened, he's no longer able to swim fast enough to get outside the Crown of the Thorns' reach, and he falls back into the city of Atlantis. And for Mera, she is unable to go get her man because now the Crown of Thorns have surrounded Atlantis completely. She's left to wonder what happened to Aquaman, and we're left to wonder that as well. But also, what is going to happen to Atlantis with their new king? And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.